4 days, 354 detentions. That's what just went down in Central Florida this week. While other states roll out the welcome mat for illegal immigration, Florida's building what they're calling Alligator Alcatraz. I'm Scott Houghton, and from my new home here in Tampa, I'm watching the free state of Florida rewrite the playbook on immigration enforcement. This is Faith, Freedom, and Tech. And today we're talking about what real law and order looks like. Let's talk about what's actually happening here in Florida. And I mean with the receipts, real numbers, real operations, real impact. This week's operation, they're calling it various names, but the result is clear. 354 people detained in 4 days across Central Florida. ICE, Border Patrol, Florida State Police, local sheriffs, all working together. This isn't some random sweep. This is coordinated, strategic enforcement. But here's where it gets interesting. Back in April 21st through the 26th specifically, Florida and ICE conducted what officials are calling the largest joint operation in state history. 1,120 arrests in 1 week. Let that sink in. Over 1,000 people who were here illegally, many with criminal records, removed from Florida communities. Governor DeSantis held a press conference in Tallahassee today. I watched it live. It's pretty great. At the Florida Sheriff's Office headquarters, he's not mincing words. Called it defending the homeland. And you know what? When you look at the fentanyl seizures, the human trafficking busts, the violent criminals they're removing, it's hard to argue with that framing. Now, let's talk about infrastructure. Florida's not just doing operations, they're building capacity. Alligator Alcatraz in the Everglades, yeah, that's the actual nickname. Baker County's deportation depot. These aren't concentration camps like the left wants you to believe. These are legal detention facilities for people who've broken federal immigration law. The state's running weekly deportation flights out of Tallahassee. Weekly, not monthly, not whenever we feel like it. Every damn week. Planes are leaving with people who shouldn't be here. That's systematic. That's what enforcement looks like when you're serious about it. And here's the kicker. Florida's 287G partnerships with ICE have increased 577% since January 20th. That's not a typo. 577% from the inauguration to now. Florida has gone from some cooperation to having 325 active agreements. Now, let me paint you a picture of the alternative because we need to understand what Florida is standing against. California, they've got SB 54, which is basically telling ICE to pound sand. New York, their AG sends guidance to limit cooperation. These sanctuary jurisdictions, and yes, that's what they are. They're actively protecting illegal immigrants, including those with criminal records from federal law enforcement. Texas is trying. God bless them. They're pushing hard with their own operations. North Carolina, that's where I moved from. They passed HB 10 requiring sheriffs to cooperate with ICE detainers. But Florida's not just cooperating, they're leading. And here's where it gets dark, folks. 2 days ago, September 24th, a shooter attacked an ICE facility in Dallas, killed one detainee, critically injured two others, and then killed himself. He had anti ice carved into his shell casings, and he left notes saying he wanted to cause terror. This is where the rhetoric leads. When you demonize law enforcement, when you call ICE agents Nazis, when you treat immigration enforcement like it's some kind of fascist operation, unstable people, and that's what they are, take that as a call to violence. That blood is on the hands of every politician, every activist who has spent years dehumanizing these officers. Let me be crystal clear. We can debate immigration policy. We can argue about methods and priorities, but violence, never. Those ICE agents, those Border Patrol officers, they're doing a great job. They're doing the job that our elected representatives told them to. They're not just randomly doing things, they are enforcing laws that elected representatives passed. If you want to change something, change the laws. These guys deserve our respect, not our bullets. Now, some of you might be wondering, where's the faith angle here? How does a Christian approach immigration enforcement? Let me take you to Romans chapter 13. Paul writes, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established." He goes on to say that rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. Look, I'm just getting back on the path of my faith journey. I'll be the first to admit that. I'm sitting in the pews on New Church here in Tampa, trying to figure it all out. But what I do know is this: God is a God of order, not chaos. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34 says, "Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." Is it righteous to have laws and not enforce them? Is it righteous to let criminal organizations traffic humans and drugs throughout our communities? And here's something that might ruffle some feathers. Protecting our citizens is a form of loving our neighbor. When an illegal immigrant with multiple DUIs kills someone in a drunk driving accident, which happens more than you think, that's a preventable tragedy. When fentanyl floods across an open border and kills teenagers in our communities, that's not compassion, that's negligence. Jesus absolutely calls us to love the stranger and the sojourner, no question. But he also rendered unto Caesar what was Caesar's. He recognized earthly authority. And nowhere in scripture does it say that compassion means abandoning the rule of law. Let me put on my tech hat for a second. You know, what makes these Florida operations possible? Coordination, data sharing, integrated systems between federal, state, and local law enforcement. This isn't just guys with badges running around. This is sophisticated intelligence gathering, databases, cross-referencing, and targeted operations. The 287G program gives local law enforcement access to federal immigration databases. They can run checks during routine stops. They can identify criminal aliens in their jails so that ICE officers don't have to find them in the community. It's going to be a lot safer to take someone out of a jail where they already have no weapons than what we are having to do on the streets, especially in these sanctuary communities. Florida's using technology to multiply force effectiveness. When you hear 354 detained in 4 days, that's not random. That's an intelligence-driven operation using modern law enforcement technology. And for my tech folks listening, this is what secure systems architecture looks like at a government level. Multiple agencies, different jurisdictions, all sharing data securely and legally to achieve a common mission. It's actually pretty impressive from a DevSecOps perspective. So, what do we do with this information? First, if you're here in Florida, support your local law enforcement. They're on the front lines of this. Thank a sheriff's deputy, thank a state trooper. Let them know you've got their backs. Second, pay attention to your local elections. Sheriffs, state attorneys, judges, these positions matter. Florida's success isn't just because of DeSantis. It's because of sheriffs who signed those 287G agreements. Prosecutors who, imagine this, actually prosecute. And judges who uphold the rule of law. Third, push back on the narrative. When someone calls this racist or fascist, ask them, is enforcing immigration laws racist? Is protecting citizens from criminal illegals, aliens, fascist? Make them defend their position with facts, not feelings. And for my fellow Christians, pray. Pray for our law enforcement. Pray for wisdom for our leaders. And yes, pray for those being detained and deported. And that they may find legal paths to prosperity in their home countries or elsewhere. It's not like there isn't an option for self-deportation. But pray for these people, all of these people. Look, I moved to Florida for a reason. After watching North Carolina for the last 12 years go from a place that I loved, especially after living in Massachusetts, to a place I barely recognize anymore. They waffle on these issues all the time. I came to the free state because they're serious about freedom, and freedom requires order. What Florida's doing isn't cruel. It's not racist. It's not anti-immigrant. It's pro-law, pro-order, and pro-citizen. It's what every state should be doing. From Alligator, Alcatraz, to the weekly flights out of Tallahassee, from the 354 detained this week to the 1,120 last April. Florida is showing the nation what it looks like when you actually enforce the law. This is Scott Houghton, broadcasting from Tampa, the free state of Florida. This has been a special edition of Faith, Freedom, and Tech. Until next time, keep building, keep believing, and keep standing for what's right. God bless and have a great evening.